Welcome back to the J&J Power Hour. I'm sorry that I had to take a couple of weeks. I moved house and then I had internet issues, so this was impossible to do any other way. So we did have to have 2 weeks break instead of one, but that's all right. Just want to start things off with saying I don't know how much, if you're coming in for a wrestling chat, probably not the place to be today because I personally have not watched a lot of wrestling in the last couple of weeks apart from an episode of Raw. So there's not going to be a lot of wrestling chit-chat. And to be completely honest, there's not that much happening post-WrestleMania. It's just kind of, the gears are just moving. There's stuff happening in AEW. There's your wrestling chat for this week, because I'm just not going to get to it. But JPJ, first and foremost, of course, I have to ask, how you doing? How is everything?
Everything is good. Everything is good, you know. I would stay steady as she goes, you know. Nothing crazy happening, but it's been good. I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah. I guess with me, I moved, as you can tell. If anyone hasn't watched my Twitch streams, I'm in a new space.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still kind of getting adjusted and set up. Of course, it's a little bit more well lit for the J&J Power Hour because you need the optimal lighting, but it's a little darker, a little bit more streamy when I stream. So if this is the first time, this is my new space. You can see my Rey Mysterio mask up there, so you know it's my house. Yep. I'm gonna get a mannequin head for that thing, and I'm gonna
oh, that'd be cool.
And I'm gonna have it like somewhere in this room, and it can just be like sitting on a mannequin head, and just Rey Mysterio is just here all the time. But yeah, I've moved house, all of that. You've seen all my Twitter things. I'm not going to talk about moving too much. There's a lot going on in the entertainment world, in just the world in general. Today, as of time of recording just before Raw, Elon Musk has bought Twitter. He accepted
I saw
the bid.
That.
A lot of people,
44 billion? 44 million?
Some bullshit like that.
Yeah, something like that.
He has a lot of money, that guy. A lot of people have opinions of that guy. I honestly don't know that much about him outside knowing of him. Like, I really haven't,
Tesla.
Yeah, well, obviously that's how I know him, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of people have all these opinions of, when you're a billionaire, people are going to have opinions of you no matter what. But I don't really know much about the guy, but what does this really mean for us as Twitter users? What does this really mean for us? You probably know more than I do about this guy.
I mean, I don't know a ton about him. Like, I'm not one of those people, again, and it doesn't matter, but like, I don't idolize. I'm not one of those people that like idolizes billionaires or things like that. So
I'm jealous. I wish I was a billionaire.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I would love his bank account. That would be more than fine with me.
Yeah.
But I honestly probably know less about him than you think I do.
Oh, okay.
Like, I know he's like a super genius, like he's a super smart guy.
I know that.
Obviously, I know the Tesla. I probably know what you know, the Tesla stuff. I know he named his child a ridiculous name that is unpronounceable. You should Google that. It's literally like numbers and syllable. It's
sick.
Anyway,
and he was involved in some, from my understanding, he was running with some like something bad with some woman.
Yes, I think so. I don't know the details, so I'm not going to speak out of school. But yeah, I think there was.
I think he was like he wasn't the guy like instigating but he was attached to it some way. That's all I know, and I don't know the whole situation. And someone will be listening to this and be like, "You fucking dumb idiots!" Like, this is what happened. But yeah, he bought Twitter as of well, I guess this morning for me, but
earlier.
Yeah. So
I mean, I don't know what it means. I would assume that I don't think there would be dramatic changes.
It'd be slow changes that happen when
slow. Yeah. So if it'll still feel like Twitter all the time, then you'll just notice these things. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they throw in like more than 280 characters or like there'll be
wanted
changes
an edit
like
button,
that over time. Yeah, an edit button is something people have been,
oh my God,
crying about for years. Give me an edit button. It's like, well, how about, again, an edit button's fine. Everyone messes up, but
it can be dangerous.
There's no edit button. It can be.
Because you could like something and then they change it and then it looks like something else and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, it can get hairy.
Yeah, it can get a little dicey with that kind of stuff. But yeah, Elon Musk has bought Twitter. So that's the first thing I wanted to get off just because it was on fresh in my brain. The second thing I want to talk about, what I'm probably going to talk about, is Coachella. Because Miss Billie Eilish brought out a certain someone in her performance.
Yes.
That
I actually saw this last
obviously
night. I watched it on the YouTubes.
it's very good. Both the
Yeah.
Misery Business cover, they did acoustically, which Haley, by the way, said she would never perform again live because she believes
Correct. I was shocked to see that.
But I think she probably saw how badly Machine Gun Kelly butchered that song and was like, "Bitch, I need to bring this out of retirement and show you how it's done." Then they sang "Happier Than Ever," one of Billy's songs. Both very good performances. But Miss Hayley Williams of Paramore, first time she's performed live in a long time, like a long time, and everyone knows how much I adore Paramore. They're my favorite things in the world. And they're working on a 6th album
I was
right
going to
as
say
we
they're
speak.
coming out with a new one.
So, like, maybe, you know, hey, a little public
getting the face
appearance.
out there because she knows.
Remember me.
You know?
Of course, she had her solo work, but she did 2 albums during a pandemic, couldn't tour them. So this is the first time she's been on stage since the After Laughter tour back in 2018. So it's been a long time since Hayley Williams or Paramore in general have been kind of exposed to the public. But for someone like me who is like, is it out yet? Is their single out yet? Is there what's going on? There's been little to no information other than we're writing an album, we're recording an album. That was a year ago, and we don't know anything else. We don't know anything else.
Crazy,
but their performance was wow.
I saw the Misery Business one. I did not see the
Happy
Billie Eilish. Yeah. But it was very good. It was very good. And
Hayley has a very well, Billie as well. Billie Eilish is a great performer. She's 18 years old and she's headlining Coachella. I mean, you could stop your music career right there and just go, well, I'm good. Like, I've just done some peak shit right here, some bucket list shit. So good for her. But Hayley has I know I'm biased speaking because they're my favorite band in the world, but Hayley has a very, like, distinguishable voice. Like, she's just very like, that's Hayley Williams, you know that's Hayley, and it's very, I hate to use this word because everyone uses it now, but it is a very iconic rock voice. She's Paramore, you have more, you're a very music junkie like I am, but Paramore are probably one of the biggest female fronted bands in history. Like, there's not a lot bigger than Paramore with female fronted bands, is there? I mean, maybe like Blondie or No Doubt, but
I would say, I mean, No Doubt would be one of them. And then Fleetwood Mac. I mean, there's a few, but like I'm at least of the last, if you're talking the last 20 years, without
rock
question,
history, she's
without question. And
the performance was good though. Ooh.
Yeah, it was very good. And for pop punk is one of those genres that I love it. It's my favorite genre. It's my favorite genre. But like a lot of people, it's not for everybody.
Nope.
Fine. But it kind of I feel like it gets disrespected a little bit. Like when
they're
it comes
talentless.
To I just think they're whiny. The whiny kid. Like it's like I just think it gets disrespected.
Me too.
And for them to get to the heights that they did coming out of the pop punk genre, that says a lot. Like there's not many bands that get to that level. Like they were like mainstream. Like Fall Out Boy is another one that did. Like they were mainstream. Fall Out Boy was the biggest band in the world for a few years. Like for a few years, they were literally
Good Charlotte went through that too as they went
Good
through
Charlotte got popular as well.
Yeah.
And Paramore is another one where it was just like, so for me, when I see a band, especially coming out of the pop punk genre, get to the heights of that, it's like more impressive to me.
Because they can do it all. They have like, again, I'm biased, but they are very genre switching in the sense of like they can do pop punk, they can do pop rock, they can do straight up pop, they can do like a 80s vibe, they can kind of do a little bit of everything, and that's my favorite kind of band. It's why I love them. It's why I love 21 Pilots, because 21 Pilots are very similar in the sense of like they kind of switch up their genres a little bit, and it's fun and it still sounds like them. Sometimes bands do that, and it's so far removed from what they were that you're like, is this even the same band? But Paramore, you can still tell that it's Paramore. It still has that influence of Paramore. And I think it helps that the band is very comfortable with one another now, with who they are and the 3 members that they have. And also, I know a lot of people talk about, without that band, or without Hayley, that band would be nothing. But that's the same for a lot of bands. Their front person, without them, they're nothing. They're not going to be like that. So yes, without Hayley, it would be a very different feel. It wouldn't be Paramore.
It wouldn't be Paramore.
But
it wouldn't.
They have done, I think, you'll probably like this. I know this for a fact. They've said it. They said they're ready to go back to their roots with this 6th album. So you're probably going to be like,
I
oh,
will be paying
hell
close
yeah.
attention. I will be paying close attention.
So I'm ready for that. Don't worry. This show will be that. I will be doing full fucking album reviews on here. My Twitter will not be wrestling related at all when that album comes out. I'll be the most annoying, insufferable person on that platform because I'm just going to be talking about it so much. But yes, that performance, I seen that because that was happening like as America was going to bed. So this was like 4 p.m. my time, and Good Die Young, which is her hair company, she does like hair coloring and they release dyes and stuff like that. They said it's happening, and I'm like, what's happening? And then I looked in the thread that Good Day bumped, and it's like our queen is on stage with Billie Eilish at Coachella, and I'm like, what? Because Billie Eilish is like, I mean, she is one of the biggest stars in the world for an 18-year-old. You know what I mean? Like this demographic, she is the queen. Really, there's no one bigger than Billie. To have Billie, who I mean is just, I can't even explain the just the burst of she's just, everyone knows who she is in the last few years. Very talented too. I have no problem with Billie Eilish. I really think she's pretty damn talented for what she does. She doesn't do like bubblegum, like she does like this weird, it's pop music, but it's got different. It's got like this,
it's like a darker vibe.
Yeah, it's darker. That would be the word. Especially with someone that young too. She seems very in tune with who she is as a person at 18 years old. Whew. But to have her being associated with Hailey, who's then obviously associated with Paramore, is like, for me, I'm like, holy shit. Like, everyone knows who Paramore is, yes, but they're not completely mainstream because they're not bubblegum pop. And that just is how mainstream music works. Not everyone knows or not everyone likes that kind of vibe. But Misery Business is, I mean, I don't think it's not even near close to their best song, but like it's their most recognizable song they've ever had. And that song has outgrown that band. So to have Billie singing with Hailey, and a beautiful acoustic version of that song too, especially after that idiotic Machine Gun Kelly just absolutely shat that song out of his
I'm going to be honest with you. I never heard the version.
Don't.
So I'm not going to.
Awful.
I trust your opinion enough that I don't want to hear it.
It's
the only version I want to know is the Paramore version, and I'm going to keep it that way.
Yeah,
so
I don't blame you. He performed it live. He has a recorded version, and it's truly, truly just wow. It's really bad. But then live, oh wow. Yeah, you could imagine it's very monotone. He also is like, that song shouldn't really be sung by a man because of reasons. Hailey said that song is very misogynistic, and if maybe the person who wrote that song and the person who's singing that song and the person that is that song is telling you not to perform it, you know, maybe you shouldn't perform it. But, you know, whatever. Moving on from that, something else that's happening in the world that's kind of impossible to avoid is the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard situation that's going on. They're currently battling in court. This thing has been going on, well, not this court thing, but like this whole years. There's been a lot of he said, she said. There's been a lot of a lot of people like to take sides in that. I ain't going to do that. I don't know shit. I wasn't there. But I will say, I don't love how, if this was the opposite way around and it was all on Johnny Depp, everyone calls him a piece of shit anyway. Even though Amber Heard's also done a lot of stuff to Johnny, but they're not really calling. A lot of people think that she's crazy, yes, but domestic violence can happen both ways.
On both ways.
And
I just think, you know, I think there's a certain stigma to it. Listen, it's a touchy subject in general, very touchy. But the bottom line is, it's wrong. Whether it's the woman doing it to the man doing it to the woman to woman, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If you are with somebody at that level and you are physically, emotionally, or verbally abusive to them, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, I agree.
That's it. If you don't, you're a pice of shit.
It's gotten ugly though in this court case, hasn't it? There's so much stuff I heard coming
again.
Up.
I don't always pay close attention to this type of stuff.
Me
like
either, but
celebrity
it's hard
dirt
to,
and things
it's
like
hard
that.
to
But
avoid.
this is kind of I heard today or I don't know if it happened yesterday or today, like, but I just heard today, like I heard the audio where he said that she sent him a picture of the bed, and on his side of the bed, she had taken a shit on his side of the bed and sent him a picture of the bed with the shit. He called it human fecal matter. That's what he said on the bed. And that was
what the fuck? I'm not laughing because it's funny. I'm laughing as in like, I can't believe what's going on. There's been so every day something like that happens and you're like, how can this get any crazier? How can this get any more wild? Like, it's just the little details in this, and you hear the audio recordings of things and text messages, and it's like, even if you were going into this as I'm siding with this person, I'm siding with this person, you would just come to the conclusion, I'm like, I think these are both insane people that have done insane things to one another, and they should both be thrown in fucking jail.
Literally. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I mean, I might be mistaken, but when this news first broke, I'm talking years and years ago, did it not, was the way that was the angle of it that he was the dickhead, right? Like that was the angle. Like it was all on him until so then stuff started coming out where it was like, whoa, this might,
From my understanding, and I could be wrong, I think she come out and said that he was abusing her, or he was doing something to her, or they were getting separated, or whatever.
I feel like at the beginning, everybody was like, because against, a lot of like he was
film companies and Disney and all of these places.
He lost jobs, he lost and stuff,
everything.
Right?
And then he was like, "Hey, wait a minute, this isn't actually how it happened. She was doing this to me." Now, I don't know. Again, how the fuck do we know what's real and what's not real at this fucking? We really don't know. No. But like I said, it's really hard to avoid that stuff anymore, because you open up Facebook, it's the first thing that's there. You open up Twitter, it's the first thing that's there. You go to YouTube, there's literal like 8-hour footage of their court hearings that you can watch on YouTube. I'm like, and I'm assuming some people would sit there and watch minute for minute for minute and try to dissect this thing, because everybody in the world, as you know, on the internet likes to have an opinion. But listen, I don't mean this in a nasty way at all, but man, it's an interesting thing to keep up with. I will say that, not interesting in the sense of like, oh, I'm loved it. Like interesting in the sense of like what the actual hell is going to happen next.
Like, going on here, like this is messed up.
And by the time this releases, there'll be 700 other claims that come out, 100%. And it's like, what is going on in this situation? But man, I don't know. I know Johnny Depp obviously from a lot of things, obviously Pirates of the Caribbean and all of other things, but it's what is Amber Heard? What is she known for? Is she just known for being Johnny Depp's husband?
She's going to be known going to be known for something that I don't know.
Yeah.
Like she's going to be known for something. I remember her, I believe I remember her being in Pineapple Express. I think she's Seth Rogen's
she's
an
younger
girlfriend in Pineapple. Okay. Oh yeah, she's an actress.
Okay, I didn't know that.
She got to more famous things after that I did not watch.
I didn't even know that. So.
I only know her from that.
I think it's pretty safe to say that both of these two careers.
She was on a big TV show, or she had like a couple
They're dead.
Decently popular movies.
Their careers are dead.
Yeah, I could see maybe a renaissance with Johnny Depp. He was at his height. You're talking.
I mean, Pirates was a big deal.
Yeah, but even before that, like if you talk like Academy Award, like nominated, winning actor, like Edward Scissorhands, What's Eating Gilbert Grape, like his early stuff, like Ed Wood, he was like considered not only one of the biggest actors in the world, but one of the best actors in the world.
Yeah.
So like, and I do think, look, it's bad for both of them, but I do think the more as this has gone on, she does look like the worst of the two here. Like when it comes to the stuff happening.
Yeah.
It's, you know what I mean? It's bad everywhere, but I feel like he's going to come out more sympathetically than her.
Probably. There's a whole lot of there's a whole lot of things on
bullshit on both sides.
There's a whole lot of toxic masculinity and there's a whole lot of toxic femininity too, because they're two and two.
Yeah. It's just a very dicey situation, but I do feel like people are going to be more sympathetic towards Johnny Depp than they are her.
And that genuinely does happen with men. And I don't mean this as like oh my God, if you do this, you're sexist. I don't mean it at all. Society does that thing where
Oh, yeah.
women are crazy and men are, oh my
Mhm.
God, we need to cuddle them and swaddle them. And oh my God, how you're so tough and this. And it's never the other way around. However, in this situation, I don't really know what the fuck to do. I just, like I said before, throw them both in jail. They're both fucked, in my opinion. So
Oh, yeah, it's bad. It's really bad.
I don't know. But regardless of anything, it is a very interesting piece of whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the hell it is.
I mean,
I'd hate to be a celebrity, man, because if this happened, if I was in a relationship with someone and it did this, at least it's just between whoever's in that room and whoever you tell.
Yeah.
It's now between
the
Amber
whole
Heard,
world.
Johnny Depp, that room, and the whole world.
The whole world.
And they're all getting information.
Well,
like, we're talking about it and we don't know shit from Clay. Like, we really don't know what is what. We only know what we are presented, and that is what we are presented. But I mean, I could imagine you could turn on like E, like the E network, and this would be all you would see on E.
Yeah, oh my God, yeah. They would go like in depth. They would read the transcript from the courtroom probably and stuff.
E News would be living. That'd be like having a field day.
I guess I saw a quote today that said that Howard Stern said that.
Oh God, Howard Stern's involved.
Yeah, Howard Stern.
God.
I'm old enough though that like Howard Stern was like the most popular guy in the world.
Years. Yeah, he was.
But he said that Johnny Depp wanted this to go to trial and wanted this to be public because he's a narcissist. That's what he said. That was the quote.
Damn, I was like, Howard Stern throwing it out there.
All right, Howard. Jesus. All right, what the heck, Howard?
Jeez, Howard. Well, whatever. I mean,
but anyway, I just thought that was of note. I was like, all right. So Howard I'm like, so Howard Stern thinks that Johnny Depp wants like this horrible shit to be out there because he's a narcissist. So he wants everyone talking about him like he's the center of attention. So he doesn't care how bad it is on his side and the stuff that was done to him and the stuff that he did. He's a narcissist, so he wants everyone to be focused.
All points are valid, I guess. He would have more understanding than we would. He's met the people. We have not.
Yeah, well, I guess. He's interviewed them, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
so.
I'd assume so. Weirdly enough, speaking of the E network, I don't know how I'm going to get here, but somehow I'm transitioning into the Kardashians. Did you see that they're now on like another... They're not on E anymore.
They're on Hulu, I think.
Here it's Disney Plus. So we don't have Hulu here.
Oh, it could be Disney Plus for me. I don't know.
Regardless, the Kardashians are now... It's like... Listen, this is how much I know. I've watched a little bit of Keeping Up with the Kardashians in my life. I think everyone in their life at some point has seen something from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. It's one of the biggest reality shows. It probably is the biggest reality show ever. But for however many seasons, a long damn time, that show was on E. It was the staple of the E network. That was its flagship. And now it's on Disney Plus, and it's just called The Kardashians. Now, I could be wrong, and I don't know.
It's on Hulu in America.
It's on Hulu in America. Okay, so it's on Disney Plus here. So I could be wrong, but a few years ago, didn't they say they had enough of reality TV, and that's why they were ending the deal with E? And then what, Hulu, or well, I guess Hulu would
threw them probably tens of millions of dollars and said, hey, you want to do this show? And they were like, fuck yeah.
Well, I probably would too, to be completely honest. I don't hate the Kardashians like everybody else. You know how, well, not everybody else, but a lot of people they're talentless and they're just famous and you're just jealous because you can't make money for doing nothing.
Look, here's my thing. I'm not going to say anybody, but if most people were given the chance to swap places with any of them, we would.
Yes, in a heartbeat.
We would.
JPJ. Okay? All right, I want to be Hulu right now, and I'm going to come to you and offer you, hey, JPJ, I'm going to offer you $500,000 to do 10 episodes of your life. You would do it in a heart. You'd say, how long do you need to film for? 24 hours a day? Do you want to watch me take a shit? Do it.
Don't care.
I don't. Let's go. Fuck.
What are we doing? Yeah, 100%.
When that show started, God, that was a long time ago now when Keeping Up with the Kardashians first started. That was in like that was like in the infancy of
Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Yeah, that was in the infancy of like reality TV. Was
Yeah,
it
was
not?
one of the early ones.
And
it was
it's
one of the early ones.
Is it the biggest reality TV show of all time? I'd assume it would be.
2007 it started.
Okay,
You think the biggest?
Would it be Jersey Shore?
Now we include it. I mean, are we talking like? Because technically, you could make an argument for like Survivor being a reality.
Is
TV
that
show.
that's more? See, I count that as a game show.
But like a game show.
That's what I would say. But I mean, you.
Well, what about like not anymore? But what about like the Real World? The Real World.
I was going to say was pretty big. The Real World.
That Real World. Honestly, like I think the first season was like 1989. Like that's one of the first, if not the first. Like, can you remember reality TV before that? Like,
no,
that season might have been 1990, 1989. Like that's 40 years ago. That we're approaching 40 years ago here.
That is crazy.
That's a long time.
Real World was a big deal. I guess that would be considered.
The Osbournes.
Oh my God, the Osbournes!
I love that show.
It
what
was
a great
so good.
show.
When the phone rings and he just goes, "What the fuck is that?"
Yeah, he's just losing it. Sharon! He just that's crazy.
It was a good show. Oh my God, the Osbournes was really good because Ozzy was just going insane. I mean, it was just.
Oh yeah, he was
Sharon, and you had Jack, and you had.
And yeah, they were Kelly, like younger. Yeah, when they first started, like those were like they were like kids, you know.
Okay, I know he's a piece of shit now, but did you used to watch Hogan Knows Best? Because I did.
I didn't watch it religiously, but I've seen it.
I've been I found it on
my
in this move. I found my old computer and it had all these iTunes purchases that I forgot I had, and I was like, I bought Hogan Knows Best. What the fuck? And I'm like, okay, I got to watch it with a grain of salt now because he's a racist.
Yeah, he's a piece of shit.
But in 2007, we didn't know that, so I can just enjoy it for what it was, and it is a funny show. Obviously. It's weird because like they filmed right up until Linda and him got a divorce, and then that whole divorce happened, and then Nick got it like killed his friend in a car accident, and like then Brooke, of course. Well, Brooke never really did anything wrong, did she?
No, she tried to be a pop artist, right?
Yeah, so she tried to be,
and then she was on TNA for a bit.
That show was basically just like.
Was she the pop artist in the show?
Yeah, so like
was she trying to become the pop artist?
Yeah, so basically it was just like a big commercial for her music. In my opinion, that's why they did it. It's probably like, hey, it can get some exposure on an 18-year-old Brooke who's trying to get into the music business. So, she had that one song that everyone knew with Paul Wall. Remember About Us? See your lips moving, but I don't hear nothing. Everybody talking like they really want to know about us.
That wasn't in my wheelhouse back then.
They don't know. It was like R&B. She was like a white girl trying to do R&B music. And it was like, girl, I don't know about this. You maybe need to just step out of that one. She did country for a little while. I'm not kidding.
Right.
It wasn't great. She's never been great at singing, but
But then she was
in TNA.
Integral. Yeah, she was an integral figure in the Aces and Eights storyline.
Oh yes, she married Bully Ray.
She married Bully Ray. And he was pretending to be a good guy.
Yeah, and then
he screwed Hogan.
And then literally and figuratively screwed both the Hogans. So and she was brought in as the executive producer to the Knockouts division, I believe. And then that fizzled out because I guess Hulk left in that time, so she would have just,
went with Dad.
Yeah, went with Dad. But out of like all of them, I think she was the late. Like she really didn't do anything that was like piece of shit terror. Like Linda was like horrible in the divorce. Nick obviously went to jail. And then Hulk is, a racist.
Not a great.
But Brooke, I remember seeing this, and again, someone will be able to confirm this, but it was it was a blink in the history of time. Her and like Lacey Von Erich and like a few like wrestling women that were like in the wrestling business but weren't quite in the wrestling business were going to start a wrestling company, and it was going to be all women run. And then it just didn't happen. Yeah, you could probably find some little interview with Brooke. I remember Brooke saying it. Also, there was a thing that came out with Brooke Hogan like 2 days ago. It was on Twitter. And it was like, this man was interviewing her at some like Comic-Con or something. Some convention, I don't know, that she was at. And he was like, she was talking about unionizing with wrestling. And you know how back in the day, there was this big thing like Hulk Hogan.
Yeah, Jesse the Body.
Yeah, like he basically said, fuck unions. That shouldn't happen in wrestling. And the guy was like, she was like, I believe there should be unions in wrestling. And the guy was like, well, there's only one person to blame for the reason why we don't have unions in wrestling. She looked at him dead in the eyes and she goes, well, I probably shouldn't say that name, should I? And I was like, even she knows her dad's a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Shit, I mean, but I do agree with you. From what I remember, I do feel like she was the most like
Yeah.
normal one
Yeah.
of the
Like she
group. You know
wasn't.
what I mean? Like she was the typical like high school girl, like
Yeah.
but like she didn't seem like a, you know,
A
she didn't
real
seem
piece
normal.
of
She seemed
shit.
like
Yeah.
yes, like you could tell the other ones might not have been the greatest
Mm.
of people.
Yeah.
She just seemed like a typical 18, 19, however old she
Yeah.
was in that. Yeah.
She had
So,
her own spin-off of that reality show for a couple of seasons. It was called Brooke Knows Best. It wasn't very good. But I guess for a little while there, it was on VH1.
man, man,
Remember? So it was
she's probably
probably
getting a good paycheck.
yeah, they were probably all getting a fairly good deal.
Yeah.
It was a long time ago. When I turned it on, I was like, holy shit, this was 2005 that they were recording this. So like there was stuff about like WrestleMania 21 when Hulk came out
Wow.
and was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I'm like, oh wow, like this is quite a long. But again, it is. You can still watch it and be like, okay, this is kind of cool. But then you still go, oh, well, in 10 years' time, you're gonna
Yeah.
say some shit,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, it's gonna be an interesting ride for Mr. Hogan.
Oh yeah.
There's never going to be a time where I look at him anymore and just go, I can appreciate you for what you did for wrestling, even though I don't think he's a very good wrestler, but he was mainstream.
Oh yeah. I mean, look at wrestling wouldn't have survived without him. Like he was the guy.
He was wrestling.
He was, yeah. He was mainstream. He was on MTV. He was main event in WrestleMania.
Thunder Lips, baby.
Yeah, he was in the Rocky movie. Like he was the guy. He was the guy. But I agree with you. He was not a great wrestler. He had great matches. Some of them. The one with Warrior at WrestleMania 6 is great. The one with Rock is great.
Pieces of shit just
They
going
are.
at it.
They are pieces of shit, but that's a great match.
I don't think I'm sure I've watched it. It doesn't go for all that
but
long
I was always
for
a
me.
Macho Man guy, so I felt like I was on the right side of history. I feel like I was on the right side.
Listen, that was obviously before my time, but if I'm gonna pick anyone out of those three, Macho
It's
Man.
the Macho Man.
Macho
Damn
Man.
right.
Macho Man, so yeah.
The best.
The
Madness run in WCW in the late 90s is underappreciated.
Well, that was what?
Underappreciated.
Are you talking about before he joined the NWO?
No, so him and Hogan both, when they first went to WCW, they were presented as Hulk Hogan and Macho Man Randy Savage, like as you saw them, but it was cookie cutter bullshit and all this stuff. And people were booing Hogan after like a year. They were like, no, like we're done with this guy. He's boring. So they both had like those runs where it was like, hey, we signed these guys, so they're going to present them like kind of how like they're doing with Cody now, right?
Yeah.
But people were like, no, we want something new. And then when they both went bad, that's when obviously Hogan changed wrestling when he went bad. Like that was like the thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like Savage, I feel like a lot of people look at like, oh, that's when Savage was older in WCW. Like that's how they view it. Oh, he was older. He was older. That was the end. And it's like, yeah, but his Madness run, he had a feud with Diamond Dallas Page that was unbelievable for a long time.
He was in the NWO at some stage. Though, wasn't he?
He had the black and white, the Madness and stuff.
Yeah, that's
like
what
that.
I remember. That's what, because I remember Elizabeth with him.
Yes.
Yeah.
Elizabeth was with him. I just think it gets underappreciated. Obviously, you're going to think of the WWF bright colors, Macho Man.
That's what my mind automatically goes to.
Yeah.
Again, as someone who hasn't watched a lot of that time, but can pick out certain moments that have just been ingrained in wrestling. I just think of him, Ricky Steamboat, at WrestleMania 3.
See, I'm a big classic guy. I know you're
you are.
That's what you meant. So
I just didn't grow up on it, and I just watch it now, and I'm like, this is so far removed from what I'm accustomed to now that I just think it's stinky. Now, that doesn't mean that there isn't elements of it that I think are cool, and elements of it that I think are cool moments, and there's cool matches in that time. Yeah, of course. As the Shawn Michaels guy that I am, a lot of Shawn's best stuff is in the early 90s when he first turned on Marty Jannetty and like through the glass at the barbershop. And then him getting with Sherry and stuff like that's like as a person again, I'm not getting into that debate, but like as a person who loves Shawn Michaels and who thinks he's the greatest ever, that's
Yeah,
some iconic Shawn Michaels stuff in
he
that
was good.
time.
That was a good run
Intercontinental
there.
champion, like he
Yeah,
was doing, with the
had some good
Intercontinental
feuds.
title and him looking at himself in the title, like he had Sherry by his side and she was all extravagant and
Yeah.
who I think Sherry,
Underrated as well.
I think Sherry is the greatest of LA of all time.
Yeah,
Just in my opinion. Sorry, Miss Elizabeth, but I think Sherry's better. But there was just so much in that time. So there is elements of it that I like, but as a whole, I don't think I could sit there and watch it for hours. I'd just be like, this isn't the wrestling that I'm used to. Like, you got to remember the difference between you and me is that when I first started wrestling,
it was
watching
the Attitude
wrestling,
Era.
it was the Invasion is what my
Oh, it was
eyes.
even later.
So
Yeah,
my eyes were like, what's going on here? Like, why is like we've got like these women in very little clothing, and we've got because you look back at wrestling, women is something that you can really tell the differences because they were so covered up in the 80s and in the early 90s. Women were not coming out. You look at Alundra Blaze, Medusa is a better name. Alundra Blaze in the WWF, but Medusa coming out. All the ladies that she was wrestling as well, very covered. Yes, they showed legs, but they were in leotards. They were just, they weren't showing a lot of skin. It was about what they were kind of doing. Obviously, it was a little different to what we're used to now because women are still, I guess there's sex appeal everywhere in wrestling with men and women.
Yeah.
But you know how men are. They're wired like, oh, sexy, but they're still really great in the ring. Back in those days, you would have known better than I did because you lived through it and you watched. What do you remember? I know we're talking about wrestling, but whatever. What do you remember about Medusa, Bull Nakano, like people like that in that time? Do you remember much of women's wrestling in the early 90s?
Yeah, I mean, they weren't focused on that much, but I remember. So when I started watching wrestling, probably like 92, SummerSlam 92 was the first event that I can vividly remember. So I was like 7 or something like that, whatever. There were women wrestling matches, but they weren't on every show.
No, they were at attraction, weren't they? They were like,
correct, yes,
women are on this show.
In the early 90s, I don't remember much women's wrestling at all. Alundra Blaze was the first. That's when I remember like them at least having a women's match like every pay-per-view.
Because they would have the title. They brought back the title and she was the first champion, wasn't she?
She was the champ, and I remember Aja Kong was there.
Beautiful
Bull Nakano. Bertha Faye was one of them, and she had Harvey Whippleman as her manager. And so Luna Vachon, loved Luna Vachon.
Did you watch the Dark Side of the Ring on Luna?
I have not.
It's really good.
Yeah, and she was with Bam Bam Bigelow, who I loved.
Yeah.
He was a fat guy. He was a chubby guy. He was a fat guy, and I was a fat kid, so I was like,
Bam Bam's on. I love.
He did cartwheels and he moonsaults like that guy. He was agile as hell, and I loved Bam Bam. And then that's what I remember from women's wrestling when I was first watching wrestling. And then after that, it kind of molded into what would become
Medusa
that next.
Dropped the title in the.
Yeah, she dropped the title. She went to WCW
in
in 95, 96, and it was gone. And then it was Sable.
Jacqueline was the first.
Jacqueline, Sable, Sunny wrestled occasionally.
Ooh, Sunny, she's had some rough times these last few weeks. Jeez Louise. You had Jackie, like Jacqueline. You had the Cat. Do you remember the Cat?
I do remember the Cat.
China, obviously, in that time.
China was
do you remember not Tori Wilson?
She didn't really wrestle a ton, but
Tori?
Marlena occasionally.
Not Tori Wilson, but Tori.
Yeah, no, Tori. That was with Kane.
Yeah. You remember Tori?
It was with it wasn't an X-Pac, Kane, and Tori.
Yeah,
right?
and then he had Deborah.
Deborah,
which she was never really a wrestler, but she was the women's champion at one stage.
She was a women's champion. Yeah. And then obviously Ivory. Yeah. Ivory was in both. She came in that and then lasted all the way through because she's an all-timer.
So good. I didn't realize that
Ivory. I
think
she was the best part of the Royal Rumble this year.
She was. Ivory was wrestling in the 80s in the original Glow. Yeah. Like I know they made a Netflix show Glow, but there was an actual show Glow in the 80s that was basically hard to explain, but what they were wrestling in Glow was based on the original Glow in the 80s, and Ivory was a part of the original Glow, the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling. And to think that Ivory was wrestling from the 80s right up until like 2004 or 2005 when she originally left, and then got back into the ring at Evolution a few years back, and then the Royal Rumble, and she looked damn great. She hasn't aged at all. You're like, this woman is in her like 60s or 50s, and you're like, wow, you look fantastic. But Ivory was always, when the women's division was kind of taking shape in like 01, 02, and you're like, oh, they're still sex appeal, obviously.
Yeah.
But they're letting them wrestle. Like when Trish came in, Lita, and Victoria, you know the story. Everyone's talked about it to the death. But Ivory was like a very foundational part of that, of like the glue that was holding a lot of these. Trish was not good in 2001. Even 2002, Trish was, you could tell she was improving and she was learning, but she was learning on the fly. And that's not easy. Trish needed people that were 20 times better than her. And there's a reason why Trish Stratus was wrestling Molly Holly and Victoria and Ivory for a long part, and Jazz, because
Jazz
she couldn't wrestle Stacy Keibler and have something fantastic come out of that. Maybe in 2005, when Trish was way vastly better, she could have had a match with Stacy Keibler, and you were like, okay, this is passable wrestling now. But there was a reason why people were like, always like, Trish wins, Trish only wrestles Molly, Trish only wrestles Jazz. It's like, because the division was so small, but you need
they were teaching her how to wrestle.
Yeah, they were teaching her. So then in 3 years' time, when all of those women were gone, Trish could wrestle.
Trish would have the mantle.
And Trish could wrestle everyone, and it would be fine. And obviously, Trish kind of stole the spotlight. She was the golden child.
I know you're not the biggest fan of this individual, but that's what Natty is for now.
Yeah, she is.
Natty does the same role now. You like Nat?
Listen, I know how great Natty is in the ring, but she's just the character,
it's boring. Yeah. Well, how do you? I know you're out of the game, but she's down in NXT.
So I didn't know this until I was on stream last week, and someone said, "Oh, I was watching NXT, and Natty wrestled some girl," and I was like,
"She slapped Cora Jade."
I was like,
"So that's going to be the first big matches." Yeah,
Natty's on NXT. I'm like, I mean, it's a perfect spot for Natty, to be completely honest, because she's doing what Natty does best, and that's helping younger talent. Natty is going to have a great wrestling school one day, and she's going to teach people. Textbookly, she is what a wrestler should be. She's a heart. Of course, she's going to be technically sound. If you're not technically sound as a heart, then you probably should not be a heart.
You're Bruce. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was a joke. That was a joke.
She's just boring as batshit to me, and she's hilarious on Total Divas. So, but yeah, I haven't watched any. I've seen little things, and I kind of, after someone said, I was like, well, I'll have a look, and I was like, okay, cool. She's down there, and they seem to have a lot of love for Cora Jade. They want to make Cora Jade really special.
They want to make her in, but she's only like 20, so I think they think like, I think they look at her as like, this is a long-term main roster, top of the division.
She's got an underdog look. I'll give her that.
Correct.
She has got she's got a long way to go though. She has got a long way to go.
Yeah.
The stuff I've watched of Cora Jade, I'm like, you're showing elements of being really good, but you just need to stay where you are for a long time. But working with someone
like
it's impossible.
Natty will teach her a lot.
It's impossible to have a bad match with Natalya Neidhart. Like it's just it's not going to happen because it's Natty. She has a level that it's always going to be good or above. Like you're never going to have a bad match with that woman. If you are, you probably should not be wrestling because it's Natalya Neidhart. You know what I mean? Like it's all in their name. But yeah, it is very, if you take things back to where we were saying, that's where Trish Stratus was with the likes of Jazz and Jackie. And by the way, Jacqueline.
Amazing.
I would not like to get into a fight with that woman because she would beat the shit out of me. I remember watching her sometimes and she would throw clotheslines and I'd be like, oh my God. I swear that they went out there and said, Jackie, show this young girl exactly what it means to be in the wrestling business. And Jackie would have went, no fucking problem. I mean, Jackie won the Cruiserweight Championship on SmackDown in like 2003. Like Jackie knows what she's doing, and she went. She was Miss Jackie in TNA for a long time. She did a lot of cool stuff. But yeah, I don't know how we got here, but here we are.
We always end up talking.
We started talking about the Kardashians, and then somehow we got to Jackie
Wrestling.
more?
Yeah.
I don't know either.
Yeah, because we started talking. You asked me about like what I remembered about wrestling, women's wrestling when I first started in like the early '90s. So somehow we were talking about that era of time,
and then we started talking about
and
Natty.
Yeah, you know,
whatever it is.
Even when we talk and we're like, hey, yeah, we don't, this will probably not be a heavy or a wrestling episode. It always comes around,
Whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna kind of wrap things up here because I want to watch Raw today. This Raw's in about 9 minutes time. Yeah,
I'm very excited about.
Again, though, you never know with that place. We could be releasing this and then everyone's like, you fucking idiots. You didn't need to stop.
You fell for it.
Yeah. But
Fool.
I know what will happen. It'll be the one time where I'm not watching it, and then Asuka will come back. Or, listen, I have very mixed opinions or mixed feelings about Mustafa Ali coming back just because I know that he did not want to perhaps come back. But, hey, it is what it is. I'm just going to watch what I watch.
How do we feel about him potentially joining Edge's group? No? I mean, I want Rhea Ripley to join that group.
I want... who's told me this? I believe
it was
Rhea something...
Ripley. I think that's a popular one.
Yeah. It was someone in my Twitch chat. I can't think of who it was the other night. They said, I just want every alt-looking person to be in that group. Like the Shotsies, like the Rhea Ripleys, like, people like that. If you look a little different, get in there. Like, I'm into that.
Yeah, I'd be cool with that.
I'm into that.
I think as long as they're with Edge, they're in good hands.
Yeah.
They're going to be in good hands.
I agree completely. Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot going on. So we want to go and watch that. But it was cool to be back. Now we can be back every single week. Hopefully nothing changes in that time. But we'll be back next Thursday, 9 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time. And daylight savings has ended now. So we're in this grind. But by the time you wake up, Americans, on a Thursday morning, it should be there and it should be ready. So yeah, all of that kind of good stuff. Anything else you want to add before we run away, JPJ?
If I have any American football fans on Between Two Beards, when you see this tonight, we're doing an NFL draft special. It's the first round of the NFL American football draft, which they present as a big night extravaganza. They bring the players in the suits. Trust me. Exactly. Yeah. It's a big deal. So we're doing Between Two Beards will be a draft watch along, but we'll be talking about wrestling. There's a lot of time kill and filler and stuff like that. So it should be a good time if you want to come hang with us on Between Two Beards tonight, if you're watching this on Thursday.
Yeah, go and do that. It's twitch.tv/Love Wrestling CA. Is it Love Wrestling CA on Twitch? Yeah, it is. Yeah. I was like, is it Love Wrestling or Love Wrestling CA?
Yeah, and then I'm going to hope to get back into it either later this week or start fresh next week. But twitch.com/JPJ Loves Wrestling. I'm going to start streaming some games again.
Do that.
WWE 2K22, some MLB The Show, bunch of stuff. But I want to get back in that. I just had a crazy 2 weeks or so with work. Just insane. So
and don't worry, JPJ, I'll be streaming in the next couple of days, and I'll probably just message you on Discord and be like, you're around.
Yeah, we got. I need to see this Slapjack, the rebirth. Of Slapjack.
We've had a good time. It's all up on my YouTube now. So if you
I've won. Oh yeah.
I've
won. It was a good time.
We put it this way. Slapjack is on the fucking up. We're getting closer to the Royal Rumble.
This ain't your mama's Slapjack.
Yeah.
This ain't your mama's Slapjack.
This is so irrelevant to this conversation, like this releasing schedule, but tomorrow, JPJ, I might be streaming. I don't watch NXT. I don't know if you do, but I might be streaming during NXT. I'm just saying.
Okay.
Just saying. Right. Just keep your eyes out for a little message, and maybe I'll do some Slapjack stuff.
Right.
But Slapjack is a lot of fun, and I told you people love him on YouTube for some reason.
Yeah.
They go crazy for that Slapjack series. So
I liked it. Yeah, we changed up. We changed up the look a little bit. He's ready to be a main event.
We had a whole hour of just dedicating to editing his moves and his look, and he's got like a blue look now.
Oh he's looking good. The entrance. He has like that, like the cape we gave him.
He
almost.
Looks good.
It's looking. Oh yeah, he's ready to take over. He's ready to be
champion material right there.
Oh yeah.
So that's
good stuff.
That's just keep your eye out on my YouTube and on my Twitch for more slapjack stuff and whatever else. But I'm back in the zone now with Twitch as well now, guys. So I'm back to my normalness of twitching, stuff like that. So yeah, I'm all set up and there's no reason why I'm not going to be streaming. So I've got a lot to do on the Twitch world and I've got a lot of ideas I want to kind of start tackling into that I was kind of waiting to do before I had all these ideas before I moved. I'm like, I don't really want to start these because I knew I'd had to stop for a little while. So now we're in the swing of things and we can get back to it. So until next Thursday here on the J&J Power, make sure you like, share, subscribe, all that lovely stuff. Click the bell here on my YouTube so you're getting notifications when I'm posting new videos. But until next week, guys, we are out of here. Goodbye.